Ms. Bindra, is after that invigorating inaugural session. And we have 5 speakers in this session, and one of them is going to talk about the world outlook for PVC. The second one is going to talk about the Indian outlook. The third one is going to talk about Chinese outlook. And one of the speakers is going to talk about balancing act between caustic and the PVC industry. And Ms. Bindra is going to talk on CPVC outlook in the country. With that said, I have an ominous duty of timekeeping. So since we're already late for the start of this session, so I request the speaker specifically that they bear in mind that they need to keep track of the time and be on time. So I might be sounding with a spoon, if I may, in case it is required. I hope it is not going to be required. So with that said, I also need to actually mention here that out of the 5 speakers, I'm told that 2 of the speakers couldn't manage to get visa, so they are not traveling into Mumbai. So they are going to be online on video, and so that they're going to talk and give presentation on video. So with that said, I think we will go as per the sequence in the program, and I will have Mr. George Eisenhauer from Argus Media to talk on PVC and caustic soda balancing in future. So this is going to be online, and somebody is going to start off with that.
Good morning. My name is George Eisenhauer. I am the Chlor-alkali Vice President for Argus Media. If any of you have questions about the presentation or the PVC or caustic soda markets, please feel free to contact me or one of my colleagues. My contact information is at the end of the presentation. The next slide is a standard disclaimer indicating that Argus does not warrant the information in this presentation for any specific use. Proceeding to the next slide, I would like to introduce Argus to you, as some of you may not be familiar with the company. Argus is a price reporting agency focused on publishing more than 42,000 daily, weekly price assessments around the globe. PVC and caustic soda are among these price assessments. Moving on to the agenda slide, on slide 4 of my presentation today, I will be giving a few more details about the chlor-alkali vinyl products that Argus publishes. After this, I will discuss the fundamentals of the chlor-alkali vinyls markets before assessing the balance of the recent markets and then taking about Argus' assessments of the future and how these markets will develop. I will conclude the presentation with a few signposts to be looking for as we move through this year and into the next. First, I would like to introduce you to Argus, publications from which much of this presentation was drawn. On slide 6, we have 5 key products that may be of interest to many in the audience. The first product is the Argus Chlor-alkali and Derivatives Report, in which we publish the information we discover in the global caustic, chlorine, potassium hydroxide, and hydrochloric acid markets on a weekly and monthly basis. The second product is Chlor-alkali Outlook. This report takes the historical information from the Chlor-alkali and Derivatives Report and forecasts select prices 24 months into the future. The next 2 products are the Chlorine Analytics and the Caustic Soda Analytics. Each of these reports provides a summary of the supply and demand forecast for the next 10 years for either chlorine or caustic soda and their respective derivatives. The last report is the Argus PVC and Vinyls Report. It provides a weekly, monthly market analysis for caustic soda, for PVC, EDC, VCM on a global basis. I always like to start my presentations with a review of the fundamentals of the chlor-alkali and vinyls markets. This helps some of those who might be new to the industry understand the unique structure that makes the chlor-alkali and vinyls industry so dynamic. On slide 8, we have chlor-alkali process. This process takes salt, water, both of which are fairly abundant materials, and applies an electric current to the mixture to create 1 ton of chlorine and 1.1 tons of caustic soda, and a small amount of hydrogen gas. I apologize for some.
Our overview, supply and demand analysis, key driving factors, economic analysis, challenge, and opportunities for India. China's GDP went up and down, especially during the tough line of the pandemic, but it's been getting better since 2023. As shown in the graphic, GDP growth was below 3% in 2020 and 2022, but bounced back to the 5.2% in 2023. In recent years, China's population growth has slowed down, and since 2022, it's actually decreasing. This isn't good news for China's economic growth. However, there is a silver lining. The income per person in China has been going up steadily from US dollar 2,300 in 2012 to US dollar 5,500 in 2023. People are now spending more on improving their quality of life rather than just meeting basic needs. This shift in consumer behavior is a big driver for economic growth. It's especially important in industries like plastics, where basic products are being replaced by the higher performance, higher cost choice like TPU and degradable plastics. Now,
Ian, my fellow speakers, it's a privilege to share the dais with you. Elite Plus, Needy, thanks for having me here. It's always an honor to represent on this platform the polymer fraternity, and this time it's the vinyl fraternity. And the rate at which your conference keeps on growing, I am sure it beats the polymer growth that we do in this country. So kudos to your leadership. Actually, it's not a fair topic that I've been given today. I've been told it's like speaking to the choir. I'm speaking to the stalwarts of the industry, and I'm going to tell them, look, PVC is a ubiquitous material, and it is there for a long term. But I'll try to do justice to the topic. So this is a general flow that I will go through, and I will directly delve into the topic. So all of us are aware that yes, we are having a high growth rate in GDP, and the last 10 years we have seen one of the highest growth rates as a country that we are growing. And as we travel or as we traverse our journey through this Amrit Kal, it's being made a mention that we will grow almost as a 10x GDP, that we will grow from a $3.4 trillion to about $33 trillion economy. But what I want to get into the context is the growth of PVC also mirrors this trajectory. If you see PVC, which is in India, it's a $5 billion industry, and as we traverse the next 25 years, that is by 2047, it will also be a 10x industry. It will be somewhere around a $50 billion industry. So that's the growth path which is there for us, and it's all of us to share in that growth story. And typically, if you see all the polymers, not just PVC, it usually mirrors the GDP of the country. But more specifically, PVC, if you see here, barring for the two black swan events, that is the 2008, the financial crisis, and also the COVIDs, where the year preceding that, or succeeding that, these were the only two events where you saw a sudden spike in the consumption and in the growth rate of PVC. But barring that, more or less, it resembles the GDP of the country. And it is a no-brainer. Why it does so? Because as someone said in the morning, it is the most ubiquitous material where you find out, as Nidhi also mentioned, it's the Leonardo Vinci of the polymer industry. It is there in each and every segment where we see the growth in this country. So that is the reason.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and I'm very happy to be here. My presentation today is going to be on the PVC resin part, which falls into the midstream section of the vinyl chain. And in the time allotted to me, we will go one up on Phileas Fogg and go around the world, but in 20 minutes. And without further ado, let me get into the global overview. Currently, while PVC is overbuilt with the supply being far higher than the demand, what is important to note is that in the next 3 years, the demand growth is expected to outpace the supply growth, with the pace of capacity addition in the whole world coming to a slowing down, with a lot of the capacity additions already having been done. And we expect that in the next 3 years, the demand growth would be around 6 to 7 million tons against a 4 million tons of capacity that's likely to come up. And this would really mean that the gap would narrow and that we would have plant operating rates actually moving up. And this really, what is key here, apart from the growth in India, is the falling interest rates in the US, which should spur their demand growth even more, and this is expected to happen from the second half of this year. As also the recovery in China. The Chinese economy is in a state of slumber right now, and everybody is waiting for that to wake up, and we are hoping that with all the stimulus measures that are in place, that will happen sooner than later. But there is a question on the Chinese capacity as well, as one of the previous speakers mentioned, in terms of the carbide facilities. What is important to see is the fact that the production of PVC resin itself is highly consolidated outside of China. If you look at different countries around the world, there are hardly a handful of PVC producers in each of those countries. In India, there are only 5. In many countries, there are less than 5. It's only in China where you have over 70 producers of PVC resin. And this is largely because of the fact that the PVC resin production is highly capital intensive. To set up a 500,000 ton PVC resin plant that is fully integrated, you would need more than $1 billion of capital. And that is a reason why you do not really have the kind of spread in terms of production. The investment economics and the reinvestment economics have really not played out in the favor of the investment decision. On the other hand, in China, because there things are very different, there is access to easy capital, there is subsidies on feedstock, and maybe in the past, relatively lax regulations in terms of environment and safety, though they are tightening up right now. And that is one reason why China is very different from the rest of the world.
Light change of topic, coming at the heels of the veterans. I feel honored to be here representing my company and CPVC. And I think what I took as a little segue, I was just saying, is that you must have noticed there was this whole thing around growth rates, PVC, CPVC, and so on and so forth. It's among the fastest growing polymers for us here in India. And I think the thing to note and remember is we are number one on that. So when once we have attained that position, we as in India, it's good to sustain that. And that's a little bit of what I would like to share as we move forward. Just talk a little bit about the history, how CPVC happened for India in terms of its adoption, what it took for it to get adopted in the region. Of course, it's not been without challenges, but that's a ton of opportunities out there. And yes, a little glimpse of some investments that's coming in the way for CPVC, supporting CPVC, and yeah, some ideas for the future. At the turn of the century is when Lubrizol came in with this technology into the country. It was a lot of work. It has been a lot of work. It will continue to be a lot of work to make the advantages of this material known for the users, because it does benefit everybody. In fact, I had a little conversation and I said, yeah, I mean, when you have so much PVC in the room, to make a presence felt isn't that easy, but that's what we started at the turn of this century. And I think what's been great is the rate at which the adoptions happened. Of course, when we started at that point in time, 2001, there were like 2 pipe manufacturers for using this. And as time went by with a lot of work, including the introduction of the BIS standards in 2007, gave a lot of impetus for the use of this material in the pipe space. That, of course, encouraged, and at that point in time, from 2, you had about 20 pipe manufacturers coming in here. Moving on, local compound capacity, so Lubrizol themselves came in with that, and there was obviously other players also that came in. And CPVC has become increasingly something that is for choice in plumbing the space. Of course, there is more happening. There is capacity being announced, both on the resin as well as the compound side. And I would say for this journey over the last 2 decades, it's not been one entity or one set of players. I think it's been something which the whole ecosystem has come together to make happen, whether it...
Address Unmesh, opening our eyes to the meeting that's going to happen. The global overview, the China overview, which is very, very interesting. We will share the presentations with you, which have a lot of data points that will be helpful. Mr. Ramkumar Shankar, taking us around the world in 20 minutes. And you were just back from USA, I think, right? Yourself, you're doing it in 20 minutes sometimes. And of course, madam, maintaining the leadership with CPVC and the applications. That was an eye-opener. Thank you. I'm going to request Mr. Nishit Patel, Director, South Asia and Middle East to Westlake, to come on the dais. And also, Mr. Kopuswamy. He's been in PVC industry for more than 55 years. So that makes himself a veteran. And please may I come on the stage and hand over the memento to Mr. B. Narayan, Group President, Procurement and Projects, Reliance Industries.
And after which, we request all the speakers on the stage to please come forward for a group photograph as well.
Maybe request the speakers of the next session to please come near the dais.
And Jaydev Mila, Director for Sudhakar PVC Products. All of them will be part of our next session, which is on revolution in CPVC, OPVC and pipes.
Thank you, BN sir. Much honor to do for us.